Well, guys, how about dating your wife? Well, you say you've been doing that for a while. Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit today. I am really happy to have with us Justin Buzzard. He's the founder and lead pastor of the Garden City Church there in Silicon Valley down in San Jose. Of course, a brand new church plant. In fact, I don't think his church quite a year old yet. He's been dating his wife for about 8 years and the father of 3 young sons, and he speaks widely, and he's authored this book called Date Your Wife. And I tell you what, put out by Crossway, so you may want to check it out at Evangel, Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. And it's a small little book. You could read it on one of your lunch hours and then call up your wife and ask her out. Justin, I just want you to know today my wife and I have been dating perpetually for 44 years.
All right, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. So what leads you to do this? And plus you're starting a brand new work. Your church is not even a year old yet.
Yeah, we're 9 months old here in Silicon Valley, having a great time. Church planting has been a great adventure. Yeah, I wrote this book. I wrote Date Your Wife because I was mad, essentially. I was ticked off about the condition of men and marriages around me. And so I wrote a book that I thought would help men and help marriages. And it was a lot of fun to write, and it's fun watching how God's using the book right now.
Well, that's wonderful. I know it's got some great reviews, focus on the family and others, and so I'm sure the Lord's going to continue to use this in a big way. Do you think marriages are in trouble? I mean, is that what you saw in your church?
Yeah, not so much in my church. I began writing the book right as I started the church. So it wasn't so much in my church. It was just living life here in the Bay Area. Bay Area, obviously, large place, 8 million people, fairly liberal place. You guys are in Seattle, pretty similar. And I just saw a lot of marriages that lacked life, that lacked power. My wife and I, we sat down and we tried to come up with a list of how many marriages could we think of that were inspiring, they were healthy, they were strong. It was the kind of marriage where when you see that marriage, it makes you want to get married. It makes singles want to get married. And we came up with 2. We could think of 2 marriages that we thought were healthy, strong, inspiring marriages. And so really I wrote this book for people whose marriages are a disaster, for people whose marriages are just mediocre and average and not that don't have the life and the power that they were meant to have and the joy they were meant to have in their marriages.
All right. Before we get into actual dating, do you think this problem is primarily the man's responsibility or the woman's responsibility?
I spent a lot of time talking about in the book. I go back to Genesis to draw that conclusion. I go back to Genesis chapter 2. I look at the first marriage, and I look at what happened in that marriage. Eve sins in the garden, but the man, Adam, was standing right there, allowing his wife to fall into sin, and it's God who holds that first husband accountable for the condition of that marriage and what went on in that marriage. So I really think God places a great weight and responsibility. It's an exciting responsibility, but a big one on men to be setting the pace and the tone for the health of their marriages and to be the primary pursuers dating their wives in the marriage. The wives can do that too, but I think men bear the brunt of that.
All right, so you're basically saying here men should take the initiative to turn things around.
Exactly, yep.
How do they start?
They start by repenting, probably. I think most men, even husbands that have been pretty good husbands, I think most men, including myself, have some repenting to do. We need to look in the mirror and take real stock of, because what's happened is most men, they date their girlfriend well. They get that woman to the altar. They're creative. They're thoughtful. They're pursuing that girl. They're taking great care of her. But then they get that girl to the altar. They marry her, and they kind of think the mission is over. They think that they've accomplished this mission. She said, yes, we're married. I've won the prize. And then men move on to other missions, a career goal, climbing the corporate ladder, whatever it might be. And sort of that marriage stays in cruise control, and men stop dating. And so I think men need to repent of that. That's what I see in most marriages. Obviously, there are wonderful exceptions to that, but I see that most men have stopped that. So they need to start by repenting and then asking God to help them believe the gospel, believe Jesus' love for them, and start loving their wife with a whole new power and love that comes from God.
How do you talk to men about time management? Because I think what most women really want is them to be around.
Right. Yeah. Well, our life's busy. Our life's full. I'm planting a church. Life here in Silicon Valley is very busy. The great idol of life here is success, and everyone's chasing success, and there's enormous pressure on us here. And we have 3 young sons, a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 1-year-old. So our life's just real full with them. And I think it starts by just making it an incredible priority. Next to pursuing Jesus, a man's greatest responsibility is pursuing his wife, loving his wife, taking great care of her. So I really ask men to make that a priority. In the back of the book, I have men come up with both an air war and a ground war for dating their wife. The air war is you're looking at your marriage from 30,000 feet. You're looking at it in a 1-year chunk and going, hey, how can I best take care of my wife over the course of this year? And then in the ground war, a man's looking at just the 1 week level, kind of the day-by-day level of how can I take great care of my wife. So it's as simple, it's common sense. It's as simple as making it a priority and taking some other things out of the schedule so that this can be high up on the schedule.
So do you have a date night? You and your wife have a date night?
Yeah, we do. Tonight, Friday night. Friday night is date night. 3 nights, our life, like I said, is pretty full with the kids and money can be tight. So 3 nights out of the month, 3 Fridays out of the month, we do that date night out, go out to dinner, do something like that. And then 1 night of the month, one of those Fridays of the month, we do here at home, put the kids to bed and we get creative with how we use the house. So we do have a set date night in the week, and then we just try throughout the week to get lots of other intentional time together. We just came back from Newport Beach yesterday. We were down there on a pastors and wives retreat with the church planning network I'm a part of. So we had 4 days and 3 nights alone without our kids, which is the first time that's happened since before having kids. So that was incredible. So we're riding high off that today.
All right, let's go back to practical ways that men can date their wives. Give us a few suggestions here.
Sure. Well, in the back of the book, this book officially releases in a week. People can get it now. In the back of the book, here it is. Yeah. Date your wife.
I got it right here too.
Intentionally, okay, people are seeing that too. I can't see you. I'm sure you're very good looking, Perry. Your wife loves you. In the back of the book, I have 100 ideas to get a man started. I put 100 ideas in the back so that a guy can start thinking about how to best date his wife. Really, a man needs to come up with his own ideas. He best knows his wife and how she's wired and what she needs. I mean, you mentioned earlier that what a lot of wives want is a lot of time with the husband, and obviously that's true. Right now, one of the best ways I can date my wife is by giving her time away, because she's just busy with these 3 kids all the time, and I'm kind of like the 4th boy in the house, and I'm pretty needy. So when I just give her an hour to herself, or say go for a run, go to a coffee shop, that's one of the best things I can do. So a bunch of ideas in the book. Let's see. Let me read some of them for you. Take your wife out to dinner and tell her how this book has changed you. I'm just flipping through some of these. Pray for your wife. Pray for her every day. Here, the 12th idea in the book. Attend a wedding. Sit in the back row and spend the whole time whispering memories from your own wedding. Here's another one. Make a list of 10 things your wife loves to do. Each new time you take your wife on a date, do one of those 10 things as your date. So a lot of stuff in.
That's creative. Yeah. Most men could look at this as just something they check off on the list. And yet women are like children. They can perceive authenticity a gazillion miles away. What do you say to that?
Yeah, that's why this needs to start with repentance. It'd be easy to see a book title like this, especially with the cover and a finger pointing at you like this, and think that I'm just telling men, try harder. Because I think a lot of husbands feel very beat.
Okay, we're talking.
If they're not harder. And that's not what I do in the book. Throughout the course of this book, I really show how Jesus makes men new. How when men really get a hold of the gospel message that Jesus has lived for us, died for us, risen again for us, that our approval with God stands entirely on Jesus, not upon our own performance, but on the performance of Jesus, that begins to set men free. And they understand that the key isn't needing to perform better in their marriage, needing to be that better husband, but they're set free to just love their wife with the love of Jesus. Like God pursued us when we were at our worst, when we were the worst possible husbands, the worst possible people. We have this God who came down to us and loved us and redeemed us. And that sets a man free to love his wife, even when his wife is not reciprocating, even when she's not being the woman he's wanting her to be. He can love her with really God's love, with God's power. And so the book really focuses on a man becoming new through the gospel of Jesus, and then the pursuit of his wife being this new thing. It's not a guy just trying harder, trying to win his wife's approval. It's a man set free, loving his wife in a whole new way.
You know, what I'm hearing also here is that this book is good for any marriage at any time or any stage that the marriage's in.
Yeah, it is. And for singles. I want all types of married people reading this book, and singles. I want single people reading this book, single men thinking that they want to get married someday. We have a lot of women reading the book. I'm preaching a sermon series at Garden City Church, at our church, on the book right now, on the themes of the book. But I'm preaching that series to both the singles and marrieds. Our church is 64% single, 36% married. And single people are getting a lot of help from the book as they think about what marriage might look like someday.
Wow. I would assume also people who maybe have gone through a divorce and would consider remarriage, that this would be an aid to them as well.
Yeah. I have several friends, divorced friends, going through the book right now who are telling me how helpful this is.
So, what little time we have left, what can you tell that man that, he knows kind of in his heart and his spirit things aren't where they should be? He maybe just can't muster up the courage to start changing. What do you say to him?
Yeah, if I was sitting down having coffee with a guy like that, I'd remind him first of his responsibility, that God has put this woman, this wife, into his life, and his job is to take great care of her. God gave Adam, the first husband, a job, Genesis 2:15, to work and to keep, or to cultivate and guard the garden. So Adam had a job before he had a wife, before he had a woman. So when he was handed a woman, he knew what he was supposed to do: cultivate her, guard her, take great care of her. And most of us men have not done a great job of that, including myself. And so I would tell that guy, that is your responsibility. It's your primary responsibility in life, next to loving the Lord. And then I would have him tell me his story of failure, because we all have that story of failure. And I would tell him that there is grace for that there is forgiveness for that, there is grace for that, and that he really can become a new man, that the second half of his marriage can look very different, that the best might yet be ahead of his marriage. The best intimacy, the best sex, the best dating, the best conversations, the best memories, those probably lie ahead, and there's a great future ahead.
All right, Date Your Wife. There it is on the screen. It's a beautiful red book with a nice little finger pointing right at your nose, guys.
That's right.
Get a copy of it. Hey, Justin, thank you, and the best
Pleasure.
to you, and God bless you in your work down there. Hope to hear from you again real soon.
Yeah, thank you very much.